flaming the fires and whatnot. I just want to take this time to quickly plug a youth network that a couple of young people from all over the country are helping to build. It's called the Can Youth Network. If you're on Facebook, you can Google the Can Youth Forum, and the website is going to launch this weekend. It's actually called canyouth.ca, and it's essentially a platform we're creating and developing with youth to monitor and update youth on Canada with collaborative efforts. And one of the main tasks of this website is to tackle misinformation. So scientific literacy, is not accessible to everyone in languages or in ways that that we can comprehend. And even like WhatsApp and my mom, I see misinformation a lot, and it can be a very powerful tool. So I appreciate spaces like that a lot. But we're going to be releasing some documents to address the gap in information in basic science, and I'll definitely see if we can get the organizers to email participants with these links.
This really is an amazing summit. Listening to the passionate voices of the young people, I'm just like, this needs to be amplified so that everybody can hear this. So I really just want to commend everybody for first putting it together, and the young people for being so passionate. So my name is Donna Philip. I am the social support manager at C Center for Young Black Professionals in Toronto, Ontario. And essentially what we do is train young people in terms of like entering the 5 major labor gaps in the Canadian market industry. It's so film, hospitality, trade, social services, and digital tech. Now, what we've been doing since this crisis hit is what I've heard from a lot of young people. We've reached out to our alumni, over 261 of them right now, and we found out from them what they needed, because we didn't want to sort of have this whole grand master plan of what we thought was relevant to our young people without their voices, because we know how that goes. So we reached out to all of our young people. We tried to figure out, okay, how are you handling the crisis? What are your major needs in this time? And then we wanted to be responsive to those needs. So we collated. We have an amazing team collating all the most relevant information, because we know that constantly gets changed and updated. And so youth have access to that all the time. From where's the closest food bank to your location that's actually open? What are their hours? What are the requirements? To where can you get mental health access? Or where can you get what apps? If you don't want to speak with somebody, what apps can you use in order to just support your mental health in this season? What resources are available? We're really helping young people to navigate the systems, because we recognize that with all the information that's constantly coming out, there's a lot of confusion and, like we were hearing before, a lot of misinformation. So we're ensuring that we stay on top of that so we can guide you directly. If they need support applying for EI, then we help with that. We've also expanded our team in terms of getting more psychotherapists or more individuals who can help with mental health challenges that our youth are facing, because that also came up in the survey. Even basic things like organizing a tax filing session, because now people need those numbers on some of their taxes to apply for some of those benefits. So it really is based on, our response has been based on what the young people have said that they need.
Ani, bonjour everyone. My name is Carly Darnay. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently living in Toronto, but I am from Niagara. I come from a European and Anishinaabe background and working in the mental health field. I currently work for the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, or CAMH, in Toronto. So for those of you who aren't familiar with CAMH, it is a mental health hospital located in Toronto with supports across Ontario, and lots of work that we do across Canada as well. There are services that are provided for young people for mental health and substance use challenges, and going up to all different age groups too, that are offered throughout Toronto, and as well as providing supports for research and policy direction, both nationally and internationally too. So I'm very lucky in my role, because I actually coordinate our youth engagement initiative out of our child and youth program at CAMH. And so I work with a large team of young people in Toronto and also across Canada to ensure that we have youth voice represented in all of the decision making that we do within the organization, So young people have the opportunity to design the programs that other young people have access to in the hospital, to create research projects, to inform the mental health and substance use services that are available for young people, and also inform policy and decision making at other levels too. So that's kind of the perspective that I'm coming from. And with everything that's been happening with the COVID-19 pandemic and all of my conversations with the youth that I work with and the different consultations that we have been having across the province, what we've really been hearing from young people is that now more than ever is a time for everyone to just be focusing on their mental health as well as their physical health. And the huge impact that social isolation is really going to be having on people's everyday lives and what this means for people's mental health and even their substance use patterns as well. So I think a lot of people have already mentioned some really great points of challenges that people are facing in terms of changes with employment, in their relationships. And I think we really need to be focusing on what this means for young people who may be experiencing challenges with substance use already, for people to be thinking about challenges that these young people would be facing in having access to safe drug supplies, to be thinking about some of the benefits or challenges that substance use already has for them, and what social isolation means in terms of their substance use patterns too, and really trying to make sure that young people are aware of the supports and services that are still available for young people to support their mental health and substance use as well. So within CAMH and even across the mental health sector, a lot of the services have really transitioned to be provided online. And so I think this was already mentioned earlier on too, and that this is amazing for young people who already have access to internet and online and who can access some of these services through their phone or email. But it's really important to also think about like other young people who may not have access to those services, what it means for all of these services to be transitioning online for them, and how we can be doing a better job to reach out to everyone on doing a better job of this. But I think, I see a question there too, just looking into remote and virtual services. So there are some services that obviously can't transition online. And so I also just want to be doing a big thank you to other staff who are still trying to figure out other ways to be working in communities. Lots of peer support workers and outreach workers that continue to be trying to support mental health in their communities, or substance use housing services as well. And so that's something that our organization is doing, is really just trying to increase the awareness of supports that are available for young people to be accessing during these times, and really trying to do a better job of providing education and awareness for what people can be doing to support their mental health.
And thank you to everybody. This has been an incredible group of individuals representing the solidarity that I think we all need to show and exhibit in this particularly challenging time. I want to sort of focus on the silver linings to the extent possible. I'll of course mention my company or companies every so often, but on a previous webinar that I was presenting, another panelist described a lack of logos and egos as being what we really need right now. And I think that was a powerful sentiment. And I also really liked the sentiment that Wei was describing in terms of a baptism for fire for youth, because already a number of studies have come out across North America and around the world showing that youth are going to be hit particularly hard right now, whether it's youth who worked in industries that have been hit hard, from restaurants to hospitality, or whether it's simply graduating youth and students looking for jobs. It's very clear that young people are going to be hit amongst the hardest of any age category as a result of this. And yet, I think there's also an opportunity here. You all are likely the most agile, the most digitally literate, the most resilient generation we've ever had. And I think the key is to get together and figure out how we can both empower you as an older person, that's what I'm striving to do, but also how you can empower each other and rebuild society after what is certainly the most challenging situation that I've lived through, and even that my parents have lived through. So I also wanted to recognize Habon's description of this accentuating inequality, and that's true not just between youth and older people, but also across a variety of other demographics. In the vast majority of cases, people who are already disadvantaged, the less privileged, are going to be hit harder. And my goal is really to figure out ways of supporting those individuals. And I think everybody on this call has exhibited the same support for disadvantaged and underprivileged populations. So with all that said, how can we help? I've posted a few resources in the chat. I'll send a bunch more that LinkedIn is providing specifically to students, to youth, and to job seekers in the coming days. I don't think LinkedIn is the only place where you can get support. For instance, I founded Lighthouse Labs, a software development bootcamp, and maybe I guess I should have started with my name. Jay Kirsch Allen. I work for LinkedIn. I do workforce development in higher education systems across North America. So I manage a team of people who work on the LinkedIn learning team with colleges, universities, and governments, supporting folks like you, students, youth, and need individuals really right across North America. And one of the things I've seen is an incredible amount of groups and organizations coming together to provide a variety of forms of support. So just as there's a CAMH COVID site, there's a LinkedIn COVID site. In fact, the vast majority of organizations right now are figuring out how they can adapt to not just moving online, but also literally changing the way and what those organizations do. And I think the greatest thing that you all can do in this 3 or 6 or however long months we have at home is to reskill yourselves in order to be ready for that new future. Somebody gave me a stat a little while ago that around 10% of Canada's businesses operate online, and that in 30 years, the expectation is 90%. Well, I think this is going to accelerate that. And I think if you all can take advantage of that acceleration, if you guys can exercise foresight in trying to reimagine what the future of business, what the future of government, what the future of social supports might look like, and then figure out where you want to participate in that future, you're going to exit this crisis in a much stronger position. So again, I work with governments really right across North America, and I think one thing that we can take heart in is Canada's actually doing relatively well right now. There are more supports here. We are hopefully staying at home more than other places, certainly than many of my colleagues are experiencing in the States. And there's some really interesting changing social dynamics that I think we have to recognize and then, to the extent possible, grow from. So, for example, our private and public lives are colliding. You can see the back of my house behind me. In many cases, there's kids running by and dogs running by, and people are taking phone calls from their bathrooms. One of my favorite examples recently was our team in Portugal. Every day now has a stand-up where they stretch, have a drink, and smoke. That probably wouldn't be culturally normal here in Canada, but in Portugal, it's normal. And I think there's actually benefits of the intercultural awareness, the fact that we're literally diving into each other's homes and families. And there is, to sort of broaden the idea, a humanity to all of this that shockingly technology is facilitating, but that we really have to preserve and hold on to if we are going to exit this stronger. So never have foundational skills and digital literacy been more important. If you all want to figure out what to focus on, those two things, so foundational or human or soft skills, tend to focus on things like critical thinking and teamwork, creativity, and understanding, again, how to be agile and resilient. And so you can actually leverage this crisis as a specific project wherein you can use it to grow yourself in those key human and foundational skills, and at the same time focus on the digital skills. There's no question that things are going to move more online as a result of this, and if you can emphasize your digital literacy, the most watched course on LinkedIn Learning, which I work on all the time, is Microsoft Excel, and I am terrible at Excel, but honestly, if you know Excel, it'll help you in almost any job out there, and there's a variety of other similar resources. So I'm not going to go on too long, but the last thing I'll probably point out is there are lessons we can take from marginalized communities that I think will be particularly powerful. So for instance, the fact that Canada is so huge means that we've already done more distance learning, more online learning. We've had more remote work than most places. Let's learn from those communities. Let's learn from our Indigenous communities that have been remarkably adept and resilient at working really, really far from everybody else and leveraging the internet to do so. The same is true for communities with disabilities. As we look to the periphery, as we be more inclusive, I think we're going to actually emerge from this stronger. And whether it's resources from LinkedIn or resources from Lighthouse or resources from the CCYP, I'm here to help, so feel free to get in touch. Thanks all.
So we have one more sector voice to share. Fabio, if you can hop on, and you have a few minutes.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. Hi, folks, and I will speak everything because I rehearsed so many times. No, I'm kidding. I'll try to summarize. So my name is Fabio Crespin. I am part of the Youth Initiatives team here at United Way Greater Toronto. So I'll share two thoughts, folks. First, what we're seeing and how we're responding, and then two kind of large trends that I would like to share with you more on a personal basis, perhaps. In terms of what we're seeing here and how we're responding to it, I would share with you that we are working internally and also speaking with each one of our partners. So just before that, it's important to mention that United Way Greater Toronto, as any other United Way across our country, we tackle all aspects of the social support continuum, from childcare all the way to senior support and everything in between. I'm trying to put my lenses here of young people, of course, I'm part of the team doing that, and workforce development specifically. The other part of the puzzle are sectors that are still thriving even in the crisis. Part of the IT sector, logistics, mental health. We fund interventions, workforce development interventions in these sectors as well, and we're going to keep funding them, even if the perspective of employment is not very good in that 1 or 2 months. We believe in 3, 6 months, 12 months, and this is the way that we're measuring anyway our interventions. The perspectives are going to be good. Before I finish, folks, I want to take the opportunity to also share other two thoughts. First, I want to build on what Kayla from Halifax mentioned. I think that all the technological processes and visions that we've been thinking for the last 2 years have been, as all of you said already, strongly accelerated now, which I think is very good for our society. I also think that the young people that will be able to train by distance and work by distance will be even better prepared to enter the labor market when the crisis finish. But importantly, folks, this crisis is also demonstrating a digital divide. There are folks that don't have computers or don't have access to data or don't have digital skills. And for those folks, the gap between them and the labor market is becoming even bigger. The last thing that I want to say, folks, is also part of the trends that we've been looking at before the crisis. We have been seeing corporations, individuals, families looking for purpose. I think that's a trend that we've been seeing strongly in the last 2 years, largely caused by the younger generations that are really entering the labor market and asking us, all of us in corporations, what is the purpose beyond profit? I think that we have evolved tremendously, amazing CSR strategies out there, but I still believe that we're not there yet. My question that I want to leave, or two questions that I want to leave for the talented young people that are in this call. The first one is, will the current crisis help accelerate this process too? And the second one, is the youth and newer generations aware of their power and responsibility in pushing further this fundamental agenda for our planet? And I'll stop here.
Hey everyone, just acknowledging too that we're about 3 minutes over. Again, it's our first webinar. We apologize that we over-programmed. So much rich conversation. So we want to encourage everyone again, please keep sharing your stories, because this is obviously the start of a much needed dialogue. Share your stories, hashtag impact COVID, for all youth at CCYP_CCPJ. As you think about what we want to do next, I think we've opened up some big chats about further marginalization. So even when Havan said there's a bit of a romantic, that we're all in this together and it's equalizing, and really the individual experiences are becoming further and further either away from opportunities or away from essential services. And so how do we keep that conversation going? Even what an essential service is. I saw a great meme, and I know we talked about social media. I saw a great meme that says it's not the CEOs that's saving us right now. It's people like Caleb who work in the grocery store. And so how do we keep that conversation going? Mental health, anxiety, fear, even physical health was a big theme that we were all talking about, caring about our loved ones. I know I'm worried about my parents and lots of people. I think something that really came out quite a bit is that a lot of young people are already exceptionally adaptable and resourceful, and they experienced a labor market change a long time ago. Then they're ahead of that curve. So that gig economy conversation around our government supports enough when we do not have traditional careers and jobs that we go to 9 to 5. So how do we amplify a conversation that starts to help impact policy around what the future looks like for employment support services is a big one. The virtual pivot, are we well positioned for that? What have we all learned from it? I love the question about how do I connect with my community when I am sitting here. And so I think the biggest thing that I'm taking away from this, again, that it's a start of conversation, but how do we keep this community going and keep amplifying it?